disruptive and then be violent at a vetting of ministerial nominees. Basically, that was supposed to be the job. The disagreements of whether or not to vet the next nominees. This is what descended into the chaos yesterday, disrupting and leading to the destruction of state properties. So we continue to hear these shameful confessions by MPs themselves in terms of what they intended to do, and sadly they achieved their aim with what we have heard.
We've been joined in this conversation, Mama V, by the president of Imani Africa. Later on in the conversation, Professor of Political Science Ransford Jampo will be joining us to have a better appreciation of what they think of what's happening and what the signals are for our democracy, especially parliamentary democracy, which is very important for. Franklin, you're welcome to Super Morning Show.
It's a pleasure. Good morning.
Good morning. Let me start on the note of your general reaction. When you heard it, what was your immediate reaction to what happened in Parliament last night?
Well, thank you very much, and good morning to your listeners. I think I've been enjoying myself until the altercation. Actually, days before yesterday, I think the election has been going quite well. I mean, we talked about whether we agree on the questions or not. I was surprised, though, that the altercation occurred, because I suspected, as it turns out, that one side did not pay fidelity to an agreement. If it was agreed that, look, we needed to get 3 or 4 people, and the majority side kept pushing, and then they added the numbers. I mean, I don't think it was in good faith to be tumbling through other candidates to be voted at that hour. Irrespective of whatever has gone on, if there was a gentleman's agreement, as I've been told, and I've actually verified from the other side as well, that they were supposed to get about 3, 4, 5 people. Well, they kept pushing it. They did their thing. It was clear. So, look, let's be very clear about this. I can understand that we are angry, that Parliament is disgracing us, but seriously speaking, I mean, one thing led to the other. I'm not justifying the vandalism that took place, and it was really bad. But let's be fair. I think on this particular score, the majority side seem to have been using some bully tactics, and I think it is not fair. That's exactly the elephant in the room. I don't see any other way out. If we are really going to go to the bottom of this, I think they should put the greater part of the blame. I mean, that's what I saw, and I don't think it makes sense. But there has been a good, what's it called, vetting up until then, irrespective of whether I feel you took 10 hours, 3 hours. I was actually enjoying the banter. You see, when you're a nominee and you give something answers to somebody who really wants to get at you, you invite those other things. And I think both of them actually played that card. I mean, whatever it is, up until that point, we were fine. The country was cool. I mean, people were angry. Oh, they should hurry up. But they did everything they did. And then you now must go 2, 3 people into the... No. I don't think it's fair. This one, they are being blunt. I think the majority side wanted to bully the minority side. And they said no.
If that was the response...
It was the case, actually.
Yes. The response, was it warranted?
No, not at all. Look, and that's where the leadership should have been quite savvy and probably dealt with this matter immediately. The two minority and the ranking and the minority leader and then the deputy speaker should have immediately seized the opportunity to calm tempers and agree that, look, we'll continue tomorrow. I thought if they did that, I don't think we would have that chaos. That's what I think they should have done. I mean, that was what I call leadership. I don't see any other way to talk. And I'm not justifying the reaction, but I don't think that it was the best of it at all. It was really not the best. And don't forget, this is not the first time these things have happened. I mean, our good friend Kofi Asare has written a nice post. I think in July 2024, there was a judge who was supposed to be painted. It turns out that the Minister of Finance today, and then Ayariga and then Magufra Abuja, went into hyper mode, made sure that the vetting never came up. And they had to agree. I think another Dampare later was the one who was coming the best. So eventually was the one who was seeing the stress Saturday, coming tempest at the time. And I think the vetting was moved to the following day. You know, so they do these things all the time. I shouldn't have generated into whatever I did. And that's where maybe the leadership, the two sides actually will be faulted, because I think they should have seized the moment and dealt with the situation. But as to what really led to this, the majority side takes 80% of the people, if not 90%.
Professor Ransford Jampo joins the conversation now. Prof, you're welcome. Your immediate reaction or initial thoughts on what happened in Parliament yesterday?
Well, I thought it was unacceptable. I was watching it and I kept blinking my eye, and I wanted to believe I wasn't seeing well. I was disappointed. I have studied what happens in Parliament virtually all over the world, and if you get into hung Parliament, some of these things happen. In lesser democracies, sometimes there is an open brawl in Parliament, and sometimes even in mature democracies, you have people getting into heated altercations that sometimes degenerate into fisticuffs and all that. But in Ghana, we have shown clearly that we want to climb higher the ladder of democratic progression. And so I was expecting that some lessons may have been learned when Speaker Bagman was being elected following the 2020 elections, and that those lessons were going to be guiding how we were relating, MPs were going to be relating with themselves. So I was very, very, very disappointed when I saw something like that, to the extent that tables are being broken, and chairs are being broken, microphones are being destroyed, and are being destroyed. And I kept wondering, because in the university here that I teach, one of the reasons why management is now being stern on students has been that it became a certain norm that anytime a certain group of students went on demonstration, they destroyed property. And management was so unhappy about that. So they've taken drastic steps to sensitize students that you are free to go on demonstration, you are free to go on procession and all that. But in doing so, don't destroy property that belongs to the state, property that we use taxpayers' money to purchase, and we are supposed to be using taxpayers' money to be maintaining. And so even among the little students, they now appreciate the fact that they have the right to dissent and they can do whatever they want to do to show dissent. But whatever they want to do to show dissent must not include the destruction of public property. And so if students are being socialized into accepting some of these norms, and they are willing clearly to comply with such socialization, I find it difficult to accept how members of parliament who are given the title honorable people would not would go beyond dissent to the point of destroying public property. I was quite taken aback. I know they could have simply walked out to show their dissent, but in my view, I think that per their own calculation, a simple walkout would have been inconsequential, because they felt that if you walk out, the other side will still have the numbers to do whatever we wanted to do. And so that's how come then I got a bit also disappointed in the chair of the committee, Bernard Ahiafo. around this time, when he saw that things were getting out of hand, he could simply have called upon the marshals of the house to bring order in the chaotic situation. He didn't do that. Okay, if he had done that swiftly, I think that yes, they could have prevented the destruction of the state property that took place, perpetrated by very honorable people who are supposed to be honorable members of parliament. So, look, I have called on IGP Dampare that we know who he is. He's a no nonsense Inspector General of Police. We've seen him arrest members of parliament and government officials for committing various traffic offenses. Yeah. This is also about destruction of public or state property, and it's not something that he can sweep under the carpet. Whoever has done that, I think, must be brought to book and must be dealt with according to the laws of the country. No single member of parliament is above the laws of the country.
That's an interesting point. Hold on a second for me, because I want to explore the genesis of the problem with you. Let me bring Franklin back into the conversation. This element of having to the police taking charge, arresting members of parliament, because we all saw what happened, who are responsible, and charging them if their investigation suggests that they could be charged. Is this something you think should be pushed heavily? And should the police even be acting before we tell them to do so?
Well, absolutely. I mean, if it were in any other organized society, I'm sure people would have been answering questions by now. I mean, the footage alone would have been useful evidence, and I think it is important that the police should get involved. You know, I don't know, sometimes this part of our world, for the police need to be urged before they probably do one or two things. I think in this matter, the police could see themselves. I mean, could be interested, and then also begin to question exactly persons who were seen physically vandalizing property. I think that was just no. It was just too bad, and I think I agree with Prof. Jumbo that somehow the police should be part of this conversation. But again, at the end of the day, well, look, we're creating ourselves so much. The number of times these things happen in the parliament, in this part of our world, we should actually be thankful. I mean, in other parliaments, even in some Western countries, you'll be amazed. I think they've had much more paroles than we ever have had. South Korea, so many of them. So I'm not excusing what happened yesterday, but I think that yes, the police should get, and then also at the end of the day, we should establish certain criteria, certain rules that should guide Parliament. I was amazed that this matter actually degenerated into fisticuffs. I was really not happy at all.
Now, Professor Jampo, the other issue people have raised is about the reason why they decided to go this route. It was really about whether or not they could continue vetting, or they had to suspend to the next day. How can such a matter be a matter of serious contention to the point that resolution is almost impossible through dialogue?
Yes, as I indicated earlier, they had reasons why they didn't want to continue. I'm sure some of them they wanted all the time so that they will be able to grill people like Okujeto Ablakwa very well. But regardless of the way and manner you grill him, that young man is intelligent and clever and smart enough to be able to acquit himself. The worst you can do is that they will not be part of his, they would want to accuse themselves or say they will not be part of his approval process. But he is going to be approved anyway. I taught him, and I know who he is. He will be able to withstand whatever pressure you want to mount on him. And some of the questions that you ask are really no questions. And sometimes they do not even have the emotional intelligence to be able to look into those chiefs and eminent people who are sitting and watching and are expressing frustrations in their face that look, you have done it for so long a time, and so let us I don't know how to put it, but sometimes you can see it in the faces of people who have even come in to support, and you are asking questions that are so trivial, and they are sitting there for hours, and they are sitting down there, and so I'm sure that they were looking for an opportunity or a time that they can then grill these other applicants, particularly Okujetu Abiakwa, very well. And so if you are not going to, if they are asked to continue, then maybe they may be tired. So they wanted another day. In my view, if they were truly tired, they were tired, and so they could have had a certain bipartisan talks to suspend or to end the process and then to continue the following day. Even though I think that the guys were going to be approved anyway, they could have had. But I think that the majority side was also insisting that look, they would go on, and so the minority feel that even if we walk away, they are going to have their way. And so if that is the case, let us find a way of disrupting, the process. But you see, if it's about disruptions, then the majority, they can do more. Okay? But it is not in the interest of Ghanaians. And that's how come I am thinking that, you see, I'm wondering if you had a leader like Oseche Mensah Bonsu leading the other side, I'm wondering this thing would have happened. Okay, it's about leadership. It's about leadership. You see, regardless of how you feel. See, I cannot find any explanation to justify why they behaved the way they behaved yesterday. Regardless of how you feel, how you want to dissent, to the extent of breaking tables, no, it's a no-no. They shouldn't have done that. They may have reasons, but the reasoning and explanations would not justify. Maybe they could have said, look, we are not going to allow the processes to go on, and then start. They can keep standing and tell themselves that we are going to prevent you, the other side from speaking. It's all part of it. But to break tables and to break chairs and to be seen to be carrying tables and chairs and to be destroying microphones and all that, I think it is absolutely a no-no. And you cannot try to get me to offer any explanation that justifies, whatever, they did. And that's why I'm saying that somebody must be brought to book. I'm repeating. There is no single member of parliament who is above the law. The president of the republic is not above the law. You are not above the law. I, Ranso Jampo, am not above the law. So people should be brought to book. If we don't do this to send the right signals, then very soon people will go to parliament and they may not come back because a brawl may have taken place and people may have lost their lives.
Frankly, you disagree with where to lay the blame, right?
Oh, entirely. I mean, I think clearly the majority side ought to take the blame, most of the blame. And by the way, it's funny when people say, "Oh, the questions were too long." I don't know what people were watching, but look, this is not the first time we've had this sort of long, should I call it, review meetings. How to call it, an appointments committee of this nature it can go into all directions, the character of the person, everything. And you see, if you are a nominee and you keep feeding the throat with the kind of responses that my good friend Sam was giving, you only fuel the adrenaline from the other side, and then they go further. Yesterday, people don't really realize Antonio managed to achieve two things. For all the things he was doing was essentially to say that he got some judge to swear on oath and say on oath that, look, anything anybody does in the republic, once the president appoints the president, anything they do is the president's fault. Do you know what that means? And I think the moment you kept feeding and the responses were coming, and those were governance issues. The other part he did was that they get under your skin, and then you start acting and saying things, and he got some judge to basically look like an arrogant person, somebody who doesn't, those are the soft things people did not realize. So for me, look, I actually enjoy the process until the application. And I think let's take our time. Let's be watching and understanding what is happening. Yes, sometimes people ask also the questions. We don't know where it leads to, but I don't, seriously speaking, especially when it comes to opinion, some of the questions is asked in the past of how to call it, of nominees. I don't see any of them as very stupid questions. Not at all. In fact, if you did an assessment of the whole, you realize that the vetting is actually, you need to go into other parts, the governance issue, your character, the way you relate to people. Everything matters. So people say, oh, ask specific questions. Yes, he did yesterday. He asked some specific questions as well related to the sector. But that was his mantra. His role was to make sure that he gets at you, gets under your skin, which is part of the job. Because if you're a minister and you've got to tolerate people's opinion, and if you say things before you come to power, it will definitely be used, you'll be questioned. So I think for me, it's a lesson going forward. If you know you cannot own up to certain things you do, please be careful what you say and what you speak to. I think, so I say, look, you ask the question is who should take the blame? On this one, I'm as frank as my name. I think the majority side should be blamed because they had a gentleman's agreement which they broke. From 3-4, they wanted another more. I said, look, we can't continue this way. And in the case, what's the point anyway? Look at how to call it. Didn't they agree to not vet the Greater Accra Regional Minister? To my disappointment, by the way, because I wanted to hear views about spatial livable, how the city is livable, the filth in the city, how she encourage, should I call it, tourism, how she basically built on the livelihoods of indigenous people and that are living on the edge of life. I thought I want to hear these things, and rather. Even yesterday, what was the guy's name? My good friend from Boone, the
Kofi Idi Adams.
I was surprised. I mean, I thought that they were going into this philosophy, the way he thinks. But I don't know Kofi Adams to be a sports person, right? So now that we have an opportunity, let's understand the morals, the philosophy, the things he thinks about, what he thinks about sports in general, how it could be created. But no, they agreed and then they dispatched the person. But some people on the committee should not be there at all. Maybe because they call you, oh, congratulations, we know you do the job. If you know you do the job, why are you sitting there to ask a question? You also wasting time. So I think we should trim it down, and we should agree. I think going forward, we should agree, as they've always done, by the way, industry-related questions, maybe 5, 10. Maybe we go into character, we go into governance. If they have that structure, I think it will work, and I suspect that's what we should do if we want to really prevent some of this nasty things. I think we should have a proper structure. 10 minutes or maybe an hour will go into the character of the person, an hour will go into the governance. Anything that he says that spooks response will not be within the particular hour. And maybe that's a better middle way out. But otherwise, as long as the minority leader has the opportunity to ask so many questions, you continue. Why are we forgetting so soon that somebody is vetting to 2 days? Have we forgotten so soon? So please,
I get
you can get angry. I don't think it's a duty of the ranking to be placating you. No. Whether you brought cheese from wherever, they don't care. The fact of the matter is that we are interested in understanding who you are, and when you get to the position, how you behave. There must be a dichotomy between what you did before becoming minister. We shouldn't see the same character going into the ministerial role. Otherwise, did you go or did we come? Right. So exactly the questions that ought to be asked are being asked. And I totally enjoyed it yesterday, only that it ended on a silly note, which silly has also become the subject of parliamentary inquiry. Anyway, good morning.
All right. Now, Prof, I need to ask you this question. There are those who are already extending this to be a reflection of the quality of the people in our parliament today. Others say generally our politics is becoming bereft of those time-honored principles of cooperation, consensus building, and collaboration.
You see, I would answer that, but let me quickly say that I also frankly disagree with my brother Franklin Kujo on what he wants to say, or his view that that suggests that then one can be allowed to ask questions in perpetuity. Elsewhere, we try to compare our democracies to other democracies that have matured as we try to grow our own. Elsewhere, in times of vetting like this, questions are asked within specific time frame, and you do not have the laxity to grill anybody in perpetuity, culminating in asking certain questions that, in my view, are needless and unnecessary. And so, the fact that somebody's vetting took place in 2 days, does not create a license for us to want to use it as a basis to justify what is going on today. When somebody's vetting took place in 2 days, we were not happy. Okay, we were not happy. I remember. And it's becoming a certain practice in Ghana, not with my friend Franklin, but generally, you have people who would want to use things that may have happened yesterday that were bad to justify what is happening today. And I'm saying that in a society of thinking beings, we must not use exceptions to prove any rule. What was bad yesterday cannot be used to justify what is happening today. So somebody was vetted within 2 days, and was that right? And what at all were they looking for from the person? Did they approve the person based on the 2 day vetting process, or what? So my view is that let the questions be asked.
Frankly, hold on a second. Let me, Prof, continue. Frankly, if you hold on, I'm sure you can get a response to what you're saying.
Yeah. So my view is that by all means, let the vetting take place. But nobody should be given the laxity to grill in perpetuity. Say, as for you can ask every question you want to ask for the whole day. Otherwise, I can tell you that we are setting the kind of precedent that would want to use yesterday's bad happening to justify today's happening. And then tomorrow, what we'll be doing is that we'll ensure that the government is not formed because an appointee would appear before us and will tell you that I want to grill you for 1 month. What will we say? And so let us do things within time frame. You have 2 questions asked. You can ask questions, but within this number of minutes or hours, be done, so that others can also, come in. Otherwise, like I said, tomorrow somebody would appear and will say, let us have 1 month. And it may be a calculated plot by some vicious people to ensure that somebody's government doesn't get formed.
Yes, the question about whether this is a reflection of the quality of people we have in the House.
Yes, the point is this. I know that these members of Parliament have always built relationships behind the scenes. Look, after everything that they did, I know they will call themselves, they will be laughing, they have relationships. But the point has always been that they relate well in camera, but when they come out publicly, they behave, in the contrary. I think it is not the best because people would emulate what they see being displayed, publicly. As to whether it's a reflection of the quality of people we have, you must just go and look at what one needs to qualify to become a member of Parliament, and go and look at the qualification that one needs to become a member of Parliament. If you look at those qualifications, then you'll be able to judge whether it's a reflection of the quality of people we have or not. I think that the most important thing is for people to be sober and to be matured in the way and manner they go about things. Yesterday,
Well, we seem to have lost Professor Ransford Jampo there. He was concluding on maturity. But Franklin, maybe that point, going forward, how can we ensure that our MPs vociferously disagree, take very strong stance, and defend same without it degenerating into fisticuffs?
Well, I think from the get-go, rules must be established. And as I suspect, not that even I suspect, as I know, there are rules governing this particular vetting process. Unless, of course, I'm being told that there's no rule. There are rules. And there are rules that say, one of the rules that say the ranking would have a limited time. If we now want to go forward, and maybe this is what we should do, agree that, look, we have just 2 hours within which we have to finish this process. That is where this whole thing must start from. But let's not make it sound as though everybody was wrong. The minority leader was wrong in asking questions ad infinitum. It is part of their rules. So that's the first thing I would suggest to be done. A gentleman's agreement may be that, look, we'll go according to maybe 2 hours.
No, but frankly, is it right? I just want to find out. Is it right?
Then that way we go forward. Otherwise, for me, it's neither here nor there. They have to agree gentlemanly that this is the way to go, so that we prevent this nasty incident we witnessed yesterday.
But even if you break rules, are there no remedies for fixing it without necessarily having to degenerate the conversation, frankly?
Oh, of course. I mean, as you realize, 10 pairs of yours were up yesterday. And you see, maybe there is a punishment that we probably should intensify. That if any of those things happen, people are punished properly. I don't think it will ever happen again. I mean, it's not the time that disagreements must degenerate into what we saw yesterday. I really was not happy with the people, the guys. I think they're not Dampare, guys who were breaking labels here and there. It was really, really disorderly. It was thuggish, and I don't think we should countenance that. They must be answering questions, by the way. But going forward, I think they have to agree properly, gentlemanly, that, look, this is the way we want to organize ourselves, and go forward. But as far as the appointments go, if you do a proper assessment of the whole vetting, you realize that, and sometimes you have to allow. So one person seems to be asking so many questions only because, well, how many people are asking good questions anyway? You don't get that. Half of the committee is like praising the person, nothing really sensible to ask. What's the point? So maybe we should have those rules and say that, look, anybody who comes, you have one question. Don't start by congratulating the nominee. I know your character. No. If you knew, then why are you there? You understand? So maybe the rule should extend to the way questions are given based on maybe sectorial areas. And indeed, I understand that subject matter people are there, but the others must also at least up their game. When we're asking the country, I mean, it's a bit annoying. So if one person seems to be taking much of the time, well, hallelujah. But they must have agreement going forward that, look, this time we'll do 3 hours ranking, or a chairman will have 30 minutes each or something, and then they go forward. That's the way to organize yourself, even when you are in an encephalous society. I thought that we are.
I'm grateful to you. Maybe the last word goes to Professor Ransford Jampo.
Thank you very much. So I just want to end by saying that I do not know what the vetting committee have as guiding principles and rules regulating the conduct of the vetting process that they are undertaking. But I doubt how thinking beings would make a rule to grant infinite right to a minority leader to ask questions in perpetuity. I don't think that is a rule that was made, that you can ask questions till you don't want to ask. Otherwise, I know if there is that rule, I doubt that I doubt whether there is that rule, because it would then create an opportunity for people to ask questions from morning till evening, to ask questions for 1 week, to ask questions for 1 month. If you ask, they will tell you that, but I have the right to ask questions, till I don't want to ask. And I think that, like I said, that will set the tone for us, for some vicious people to frustrate the formation of government. And it's not something that we must tolerate as a democracy.
I am grateful to you, Professor Ransford Jampo. He's a professor of political science at the University of Ghana, Department of Political Science, and also to you, the boss at Imani Africa, Franklin Cudjoe. Gentlemen, it's interesting, right, that the disagreement and the back and forth on whether or not an agreement could have resolved this problem. The key question then remains, if I go back on an agreement with you, how do you resolve that problem too? And shouldn't we have matured politicians knowing better ways of dealing with some of these things than, exchanging blows in the Parliament of the Republic of Ghana.
So that's why I wonder who should be blamed for that. I disagree. I think it has to be with the minority, because they decided to take the position that they were not going to act in the manner that we've always known, which is, and you said it earlier, either storm out and
vociferous, make
call
a point.
the press and tell the press your position and the fact that you had agreed to do this and they've gone outside what you had agreed.
And they have another plan. They'll put on their microphone so that you can't speak. You can't even ask the person the question.
Exactly.
And they will just be obstructing it
There were
with
many
that.
ways of doing it, but to resist, and they said it in the open, in the audios that we've even heard, that we're not going anywhere. We're going to be disrupting the exercise. They started it, and then we saw them pull up chairs to put on the tables, and then it got out of hand. So I think on that note, the minority will have to take the blame.